The Soviet Union 1917 to 1964. The Russian Civil War. The causes. Existing political opposition had merged to create the White Army. This army was supported initially by Britain, France and the US because of their similar ideologies, the fact that they wanted Russia as an ally, as well as wanting their loans paid back. The real kind of trigger for the Civil War was when the Czech Legion, which was controlled by the White Army, rose up. This was 4,500 soldiers who were allowed to move eastward, but some Bolsheviks tried to arrest them. So on May 1918 they marched to Moscow against the Bolsheviks, and this sparked the outbreak of civil war. So why did the Bolsheviks win the war? Reds versus Whites. The Red Army was led by Leon Trotsky, who had murdered the Tsar and his family to ensure that the Whites couldn't rescue them. The White Army. They used the black market trading of weapons and consumed a lot of alcohol and cocaine. They ignored the peasant demand for land, and General Denikin refused to acknowledge Ukraine as an independent country. Nationalities. The Red Army joined Czechoslovakian soldiers who wanted to escape. They fought a short war with Poland, but eventually recognized the Polish border. They also accepted the independence of Estonia, Latvia and Ukraine, also allowing the Ukrainians to use their own language. However, the White Army's commander Kolchak refused Finland independence, as Denikin saw Russia as one and indivisible, and therefore wouldn't grant it. They also alienated Estonia. Allies. The UK and US were reluctant to support Tsarist groups. The UK Prime Minister refused to send aid to the White Army, and the US President was reluctant to provide aid to Kolchak. The Prime Minister feared creating a strong Russia which could threaten the British Empire. So in November 1919, the UK began negotiating with the Bolsheviks. Britain told the White Army they were not prepared to launch an attack against the Bolsheviks. Peasant armies. The Whites had no support of the peasantry because Denikin refused to enforce peasant land sieges. The peasants preferred the self-government promise of the Bolsheviks, and the Bolsheviks were even successful in returning deserters to the army. The Bolsheviks were more successful in dealing with uprisings, 39 being repressed by the Cheka. State and leadership. The Red Army secured the support from the officer class, and they ridiculed the Whites for being bourgeoisie. However, this was ironic, seeing as the state had been staffed with the bourgeoisie as well, because membership meant social mobility. The membership rose from 150,000 to 600,000. The Whites, however, were a weak state. They wasted supplies as they had resources for 270,000 men when only 30,000 were fighting. They also made many mistakes, such as the Ufa offensive, where they used untrained troops. This is where it gets a little bit confusing, but I'm going to try my best to explain it. The 1918 Constitution. Supreme power in Russia rested with the All-Russian Congress of Soviets. These were deputies elected by local Soviets across Russia. They had a supreme organ of power elected who acted like a president. They were responsible for electing the Sovnarkom, which was similar to ministers. However, it had many limitations that centralized political power to Lenin. The members of the exploiting classes couldn't vote because they were seen as an enemy. The Bolsheviks in the end chose the members of Sovnarkom to ensure that there was Bolshevik membership. Congress only met in intervals, and if something happened when it wasn't around, the Sovnarkom had dealt with it instead. Impact on government and the Bolshevik Party. This brought greater centralization and party control. Policies and decisions were shaped by the Central Committee, and in 1919 the subcommittee Politburo was created. This was the real center for party policy, and the first elected included Lenin, Stalin and Trotsky. The This led to the government becoming instrumental in carrying out Politburo policies and the Central Committee. The Bolsheviks had their own party structure similar to the Soviet government. Soon it was decreed that local Soviets, where workers and peasants were supposed to have their voice, now had to be party members. In April of 1922, Stalin was made General Secretary, where he could coordinate working positions. In 1923, he introduced the nomenklatura. These were people who held key positions in areas such as industry, agriculture, and education. These positions had to be approved by the Bolshevik Party. This created a new party elite. The impact on national minorities and 1922 Constitution. The communist government abandoned the support of national self-determination. National culture and national languages were permitted, but independent movements were deemed counter-revolutionary. In Georgia, they demanded greater independence, but Stalin crushed them. But Lenin then condemned him, so it's already confusing. In December 1922, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics was established. However, it was that different to what Russia was doing just before then. The states of the unions were kept under control in order to not mirror Tsarist imperialism.